The third floor resident. The apartment was a shithole, but it was a shithole I could afford. 2 rooms plus a bathroom the size of a coffin, wedged into the second floor of a building that looked like it had given up sometime around 1987. The walls were the color of old teeth. The carpet was the kind of brown that hides stains. The radiator clanked and hissed like something dying, and the windows had been painted shut so many times they'd never open again. But there was no first and last, no security deposit, and most importantly, no credit check. That's what happens when your mother drinks herself to death and leaves you nothing but a trailer full of empty bottles and a stack of bills that would take 3 lifetimes to pay off. That's what happens when your father disappeared when you were 12 and never bothered to come back. That's what happens when you put yourself through culinary school only to graduate into an economy that thinks a line cook is worth $9 an hour and no benefits. You take what you can get. The landlord met me at the door with a handshake that left my palm greasy. His name was Lester. Just Lester. No last name offered. And he looked exactly like what he was. A man who had stopped caring about anything except the rent check. His suit was brown and stained, the buttons strained against a belly that spoke of fast food and regret. His hair was slicked back with something that caught the light like an oil spill. A cigarette dangled from his lips, and as I watched, he lit a fresh one off the dying ember of the old. "It's not much," he said, gesturing vaguely at the apartment, "but it's cheap. Quiet building. Keep to yourself. You won't have problems." I walked through the room, checked the faucets, flushed the toilet, pretended I had options. "I'll take it." Lester produced a lease from somewhere inside his jacket, folded, creased, looking like it had been used for a dozen tenants before me. I sat at the kitchen counter and started reading, more out of habit than any real concern. Standard stuff. Rent due on the 1st, no pets, no smoking, no subletting. And then on page 4, a clause that made me stop. Tenant agrees to abide by all regulations regarding the 3rd floor resident. Tenant will not attempt to access the 3rd floor after midnight. Tenant will not leave food items in common areas after dark. Tenant will not acknowledge any sounds originating from above. If tenant observes stairs leading upward from the 2nd floor, tenant will not ascend. Violation of these terms constitutes immediate grounds for eviction. I read it twice. What the hell is this? Lester glanced at the page, and something flickered in his eyes. Something that looked almost like fear. There and gone, so fast I might have imagined it. "Old form." He took a drag from his cigarette. "Previous building, different setup. Haven't gotten around to updating it. There's no 3rd floor." "That's right." Another drag. The ember glowed. "That's why you don't need to worry about it." He smiled. It wasn't reassuring. I signed the lease anyway. What choice did I have? The first week was fine. I worked doubles at the diner, breakfast shift and dinner shift, with just enough time between to come home and collapse on the mattress I'd bought secondhand from a guy on Craigslist. The apartment was quiet. The neighbors were invisible. I started to think I'd gotten lucky, that the shithole was actually just a regular shithole, nothing more. Then I heard the footsteps. It was a Thursday night, just past midnight. I was lying in bed, almost asleep, when the sound came from directly above me. Heavy, deliberate, the unmistakable rhythm of someone walking. I lived on the 2nd floor. There was no 3rd floor. I lay there frozen, listening as the footsteps crossed from one side of the ceiling to the other, slow, patient, like someone pacing, like someone who had all the time in the world. Then they stopped. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I told myself it was the building settling. Old pipes, rats in the walls, the kind of sounds you hear in old buildings, the kind that mean nothing. I almost believed it. The 2nd week, things started moving. Small things at first. My keys weren't where I'd left them. I was sure I'd put them on the counter, but I found them on the coffee table. A cabinet I'd closed was standing open when I came out of the bathroom. My phone was on the kitchen counter when I was certain, absolutely certain, I'd left it charging by the bed. I started second-guessing myself, started wondering if the exhaustion was getting to me, if the double shifts were scrambling my brain. I was tired. I was stressed. I was living in a shitty apartment in a shitty building in a shitty part of town, and maybe I was just losing track of things. But then I noticed the food. I'd left a half sandwich on the counter before my shift. When I came home, it was gone. Not in the trash, not anywhere, just gone, like it had never existed. I thought about the lease. Tenant will not leave food items in common areas after dark. I started keeping everything in the refrigerator. The footsteps continued, every night, just past midnight. Walking, pacing, waiting. I stopped looking at the ceiling when they happened. The third week, I saw the light. I was getting ready for bed, standing in the hallway, when I noticed it. A faint glow coming from beneath the closet door. Not bright, just a sliver of pale light, barely visible, like someone had left a lamp on inside. I hadn't been in the closet since I moved in, just shoved a few boxes in there and forgot about it. I opened the door. Darkness. Just coats, boxes, the smell of dust and old fabric. No light, no lamp, nothing. I stood there, hand on the knob, staring into the black. I could have sworn, I knew I'd seen a light. But there was nothing, just an empty closet in an empty apartment in a building that didn't have a third floor. I closed the door, turned away. Something made me turn back. I opened it again. This time I looked closer, pushed the coats aside, moved the boxes. And there, in the back wall, I saw it. A seam, vertical, running from floor to ceiling, painted over so many times it was almost invisible, but there, unmistakably there, a door. I should have walked away. I should have closed the closet, gone to bed, forgotten what I'd seen. I should have remembered the lease, the clause, the warning that I'd laughed off as a typo from another building. If the tenant observes stairs leading upward from the second floor, tenant will not ascend. But I was tired and I was angry, and I'd spent my whole life being told what to do by people who didn't give a shit about me. My father before he left, my mother when she was sober enough to notice I existed, every boss, every landlord, every authority figure who saw a poor kid from a broken home and decided I wasn't worth their time. I pushed the door. It swung inward. Behind it, stairs. Going up. The building was 2 stories. I was on the second floor. There was nowhere for stairs to go. But there they were, wooden and worn, disappearing into darkness above. I climbed. I don't know why. Some part of me had to know, had to see what was up there, what the lease was warning me about, what walked above my ceiling every night and moved my things and took my food. The stairs kept going, longer than they should have. The darkness got thicker, the air got colder, and then finally, I reached the top. A room, small, cramped, no windows. The walls were covered with monitors, dozens of them, different sizes, different ages, some flickering, some dead. Some showed images in crystal clarity, images of my apartment, every angle, every room, the bedroom, the bathroom, the kitchen. I saw myself on those screens, recordings, hours of them, looping, sleeping, eating, showering, brushing my teeth, lying awake at night, listening to the footsteps. Someone had been watching me. Someone had been watching everything. In the corner, a cot, stained, sunken in the middle like someone had slept there for years. Beside it, empty food containers, wrappers, bottles, a bucket that I didn't look at too closely. And the smell, something old, something wrong, something that had been living in this space for a very, very long time. I turned to leave. The stairs were gone. Just a wall, solid, no door, no seam, nothing but plaster and paint and the faint impression of where an opening used to be. I pounded on it, screamed, clawed at the surface until my fingers bled. Behind me, something moved. I turned. It was standing in the corner. I don't know how I missed it before. Maybe it hadn't been there. Maybe it had always been there and I just couldn't see it. But it was there now, and it was looking at me. And I understood. In that moment, I understood everything. It wasn't a person. It might have been once, a long time ago, but now it was something else. Faces layered over faces, features sliding and reforming like wax in heat, eyes that didn't line up, mouths that opened in the wrong places. It had been up here so long, absorbing, growing, adding to itself, that it had forgotten what singular meant. Oh, God! The words came out of me without thought. A prayer to nothing. A plea to no one. It moved toward me, not walking, flowing like something liquid, like something hungry. And I felt it touch me. Cold, so cold, it poured into me through my skin, through my eyes, through the space between my thoughts. I felt it learning me, tasting me, all my memories, all my pain, all the years of being alone and unwanted and afraid. It drank them like water. I felt myself dissolving. I felt myself becoming part of something larger. I felt myself disappear. The new tenant moved in on Sunday. Her name was Maria, 26, fresh out of a bad relationship, starting over in a new city. She'd found the listing online. Cheap rent, no deposit, no credit check. Too good to pass up. Lester met her at the door with his greasy handshake and his stained suit and his cigarette lit off another cigarette. "It's not much," he said, "but it's cheap. Quiet building, keep to yourself, you won't have problems." She walked through the door, checked the faucets, flushed the toilet. "I'll take it." She signed the lease without reading page 4. The first night, she heard footsteps above her. She told herself it was the building settling, old pipes, rats in the walls. She almost believed it. The second night, her keys weren't where she'd left them. The third night, she saw a light under the closet door. She didn't open it, not yet. She would eventually. They always did. And in the space behind the walls, in the room that didn't exist, in the darkness that had been growing for longer than the building had been standing, something watched. Something that remembered being a cook at a shitty diner. Something that remembered a mother who drank and a father who left. Something that remembered being human once, before it became part of the building, part of the watching, part of the hunger that never stopped. Something that was so much more now. The closet door was closed, but not for long. It was never closed for long. We are always watching. We are always hungry. We are always waiting for the next one to climb the stairs. Welcome home.